Hello, then. Welcome to Friday's edition of The Brief. I'm Jessy Chahal. Well, this just in some good news for everyone. Malaysia may open borders to fully vaccinated travelers from certain countries with no quarantine needed. This just has been announced, and the National Recovery Council chairman, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, says that the government is mulling opening the country's borders to fully vaccinated international travelers from several or selected countries, without the need for any quarantine. This consideration, he says, would be based upon mutual recognition of vaccine certificates as practiced by several countries. So a few more loose ends perhaps to be tied there. We will wait for that announcement and verification to be made as well. But hey, it is Friday. On this edition, I'll be speaking to Audrey Sim, the Center Manager of GMBB KL, about creating a safe space for art and a community for artists. Also, I'll be speaking to Nadia Abdulatif about a report by UNICEF launched just yesterday on mental health of children. But before that, let's begin with some updates from the Parliament. Now, according to the Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, Malaysia has generated more than 7.2 billion ringgit in business leads in the first 2 weeks of the Dubai Expo 2020. Now, this figure was taken from 14 MOUs or memorandums of understanding and basically three letters of intent and two memorandums of cooperation between 14 Malaysian companies and their foreign counterparts as well. So potential business has been discussed with companies in China, in Egypt, India, Iran, Oman, Qatar, the UK, UAE, and even the USA. And also, still with the Prime Minister, he says Malaysia has won the election to take one of the 18 seats in the United Nations Human Rights Council for the term 2022-2024. Malaysia will work closely with UN member states to advance the global human rights agenda. Now, the Prime Minister has also commented that human rights must be the center of all our efforts to recover from COVID 19. Well, still with the UN Human Rights Council, the United States was on Thursday elected a member of the UN Human Rights Council following its withdrawal back in June 2018. In a vote at the UN General Assembly, the United States was elected along with 17 other countries for a 3 year term beginning January 1st next year, 2022. Now, the United States, under the administration of Donald Trump at that point, withdrew from the Geneva based Human Rights Council back in June, then accusing the council of being a hypocritical and self serving organization and biased against Israel. Now, the US seat was later taken by Iceland in a by election. Yesterday marked the launch of the United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF's report called the State of World's Children 2021 report, On My Mind, promoting, protecting, and caring for children's mental health. Now, to weigh in on this report, I'm joined by Bernama anchor and social activist Nadia Abdul Latif. Hi, Nadia. It's good to speak to you again. Of course,
Hi,
such an
Previnna.
important time as well to be talking about mental well-being and what more of children who are the hidden and silent victims of this entire pandemic. What are your thoughts initially on some of the key findings and key highlights of this report?
Thank you, Jesse. I think it was timely, and a lot of the statistics that were actually shared in the On My Mind report is really to be expected. I think it didn't come as a shock to a lot of the CSOs and the NGOs space, especially those that are trying to champion not only the mental health but also the well-being of all children in Malaysia, irrespective of nationality, creed, ability. What it definitely laid bare was that COVID-19 has truly become not only an issue for the adults, but an issue all across the board. And mental health came out very strongly as an issue that the children in Malaysia are struggling with. And it has even been dubbed a hidden epidemic that the children are actually facing. I mean, imagine more than 40 weeks of school online or no school for some.
No, absolutely. And yeah, you're right to point out that it was nothing came too much of a shock, but at the same time, it is worrying to see the stats, knowing that so many children are affected and have been affected. But here's the other thing, though. We're only using this particular point in time as a milestone. But let's also recognize that children's mental health and well-being has been affected way before, this whole pandemic occurred. This report is calling for commitment, communication, and action by governments, public and
Yes.
private sectors, and its partners to be part of a comprehensive approach, Nadia. At this point, here in Malaysia, where do you think there can be meeting of minds, or so to say, where all of these different sectors can come together?
I think if you look at it during the pandemic and us trying to come out of the pandemic as we speak right now, there's been a lot of efforts. But one of the key issues that has been happening consistently in Malaysia is that we're operating in silos. I might get the bad rap for saying this, but I think we can do better in terms of really integrating systems. We've got Talian Kasih on the one hand, we've got the police doing things on the other, we've got the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, we've got different civil society organizations, we've got the mental health groups. But I think what's happening is there's always a drop in the communication in how we are looking at the child. A child that comes to the hospital for assistance is not just, for example, exhibiting symptoms of physical need. There's also an underlying assistance that is required. Teachers are now at the front line of trying to examine and understand whether children are having any other issues when they're having a class dalam talian or learning online.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, one of I think the best movements that have happened and just has happened in the last few days. Number one was the Attorney General Chamber's decision to actually decriminalize attempt of suicide, which is in line with I think in line with Section 309 of the Penal Code. So that was a one big thing that happened really in the last few days. The other, of course, as you can see, is Malaysia's, I suppose, in to the Human Rights Council. And of course, this was much debated whether it's a good thing or not. But I see that as an opportunity. If Malaysia is really there in the Human Rights Council of the UN, it really then should walk the talk in terms of the rights to everyone in the country, including children. And in this case, the protection of children, the right to survival, the right to nationality, the right to access to resources, as well as mental health, which is a huge issue that we see right now. The
That's
other
right.
thing that I'd like to highlight is the National Action Plan or the Mental Health Strategic Plan that the country now has. That definitely is something that I feel is a good thing to ride upon. And they have, I think, listed down several key trusts. In fact, I believe there are 8 areas in this, from ensuring that communication is better, policy is better, governance is better, implementation is better, all the way down to strengthening systems and suicide prevention. And if we really do this right, we have a chance to really help the children, because really, Jesse, the way I see it is there is an economic impact to this. If our children are going to become the COVID generation and we don't help them now, we're going to see not only an impact in terms of crime rates, productivity rates, GDP, everything is going to snowball.
That's right. One of the other things that came out from the discussion that I had with a few of the subject matter experts yesterday on at the launch was that the need to develop resilience in children as well, and the fact that parents as well play such an important role. It's not just about the kids; it's the environment, the background, in terms of how they are, how they are cared for and nurtured for as well. So this plan also extends and to the caregivers themselves and beyond, of course. So it's important that education and awareness is created towards a larger circle as we speak. But one of the other points that was also shared was that, with the healthy minds, for example, that's a program that's going to be initiated in schools. It's important for counselors as well to be brought to the table.
Yes.
And I thought this was really exciting because school is where children spend so much time. And, if they can find that to be a safe space, if they can feel comfortable enough to approach a counselor who
Yes.
himself or herself has been equally trained as well.
Train.
However, I feel that, that might be a difficult sort of barrier to break at this point of time where you would expect the child to go and approach a counselor, when I feel the reverse should be happening, where the counselor should make that proactive observation and diagnosis, so to say. Your thoughts?
I know I've only got 1 minute, but the other thing I wanted to add was um, on top of hoping that the adults would pick up on these cues and helping the children as opposed to waiting for the children to come for the adults to help. I feel that there's not enough emphasis on peer-to-peer support. Children themselves actually do have the agency to be able to flag the misgivings or the issues that other children are having. And I feel that this is an area that Malaysia has yet to fully capitalize on and really develop. We have this mindset that the adults have to empower children, whereas in actuality, children are already having the power in their own right. What we should be doing is supporting their voices and
They
amplifying
sure do.
that. Yeah, so the peer-to-peer
Absolutely.
support definitely an area that we can look at.
That's right. I mean, of course, this has been, it's resounding. I'm excited about how this plan is going to be rolled out and about the future it really holds for children and the emphasis that we are all bringing towards the children's well-being and mental health as well. Nadia, without much time left, thank you so much. As always, a pleasure speaking to you. I'll connect with you soon. That was Nadia Latif, one of our Bernama anchors as well as social activists. We're talking about the state of the mind, a report that has just been launched by UNICEF. And as we move on from the younger generation to the older generation, Malaysia may now become an aging nation earlier than predicted after the country recorded the lowest fertility rate in 4 decades. Now, according to the Statistics Department, for the past 10 years, the country had 3.7 births for every death. So the upcoming decline in this ratio will impact the population structure in Malaysia. The elderly population is expected to reach 15.3% of the population by 2030. That's not too long away. Now, in addition, increase in average age of first marriage, urbanization, lifestyle changes, economic status, and increased use of family planning methods also have all contributed to the declines in births. From that, here's a word from the Finance Minister. The Financial Management and Resilience Program, otherwise known as URUS, complements the government's initiatives in helping the most affected groups in line with the reopening of the economy. Now, the ministry welcomes URUS, which is a comprehensive loan repayment assistance program jointly designed by the banking sector and the Credit Counseling and Debt Management Agency, otherwise known as AKPK. Now, here's a quick note though. URUS will be offered to the B40 sector or segment, and meaning those bottom 50% of income owners or borrowers. Its benefits include interest waivers for 3 months, reduction in installment payments, and reduction in interest rates as well. Definitely a relief for so many people who might be still wondering what will happen once we get back into the full swing of things. How will they be able to afford paying back loans and debts? Well, that's about creating a safe space for them. But let's look at the art industry. We've been talking about that this week. In fact, as more sectors are opening up and more relaxations of SOPs, people also cannot wait to go back out and enjoy some of the things they do in life. And one of that, of course, is community spaces and art, and enjoying all the work that artists also put out and share with us. So, about creating a safe space for art and a community for artists, I'm speaking to Audrey Sim right now, the GMBB Center Manager. Audrey, it's really good to speak to you, and it's good to know that you will be seeing your family after a year. So heartwarming indeed, but it is a sign of things definitely getting better as well. But the pandemic, Audrey, has definitely hit the art scene really hard. Very few visitors to exhibitions and showcases, and even some events that have been successful enough to move online. So it's been long drawn for art practitioners. Some have even put art on the back burner and resorted to alternative ways to support themselves. So more recently, Audrey, we've seen the arts events seen being held in smaller spaces as well, and we've seen that people have actually artists have actually come together to put out things in a more working together method. But how does this community of art practitioners really help the overall art scene in Malaysia to move forward, Audrey?
Thank you, Jessy, and a pleasure to be here. Well, arts brings us together to smaller spaces, more so nowadays to enable good crowd management and also venue management with disinfecting of smaller venues in a speedy manner and ensuring social distancing is in compliance to SOP. Engagement between diverse artists from young emerging ones to the notable ones are heightened in a more intimate setup as well right now. And I see such space as a place of inspiration, a place of courageous sharing through difficult times, and a place where collaboration and growth takes flight to move the art scene and evolve to the next level to move forward. So interesting times indeed, and well, look ahead, for more, in the art scenes ahead.
Audrey, as we've had this global reset happen to us as well, there has been a lot of awareness that's been raised about the environment, sustainability, so on. Big global issues as well. Where do you find the relevance of art in the community to further promote and advocate for such issues?
Well, I see arts as an expression of the society, as a whole, or it relates to what's happening in the environment around us. For example, let's talk about Red Hong Yi. Through her works recently being featured in Times, for example, her works has deepened the awareness from the public on climate change, and many would resonate with her expression of art as well. And with the overwhelming support created through her works will bring about thoughts and actions from each individual to be more wary and play a part, at the individual level to reduce carbon print in their daily lives. This leads to a social change as a whole. And the entire workings could play a big part in influencing political and economic policy change.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, it's a place where people would come and use it as a platform to promote, to educate, to raise awareness as well. Now, with that, what are some of the events that GMBB will be hosting in the near future? We know that, of course, the mall has had to sort of put a pause button for a long time, and now it's time to get back into the swing of things. So, what can we expect?
It's exciting times indeed. And in fact, we have one right now. Is on the first day of its launch. It's called Telur Pecah. It's a contemporary visual arts exhibition that is now open to the public. Admission is free, and the exhibition unveils 200 original art pieces from 50 passionate artists, from young talents to senior artists. So we can also note the presence of Sharifah Zuria Al-Jafri, fashion designer Eric Chung, politician turned artist Datuk Kamil Shafi as well. And we have artists from as young as 9 years old joining into. Yeah, and this Telur Pecah is curated by Philip Wang and together with GMBB team.
Okay, but tell us, what do you mean Telur Pecah? What's the concept behind this?
It can be interpreted in so many ways. Okay, so telur is the start of everything, So it's like from the embryo, things are formed inside, and when we say Telur Pecah, that means it's time to emerge, and to be out in the public. So it can also mean that it is a way for us to engage with the public as well. So there are so many interpretations, so I open it up for all to interpret. But to us, it is an original beginning. So that's we call it as Telur Pecah. It's a launch. Yeah,
and that's a wonderful thing about art.
We have film screening as well, and a lineup of art exhibitions all the way to the first quarter of 2022. So, check our social media pages. And of course, we have performing arts as well. We have 5 arts joining us, and they are going to open in GMBB commencing in January 2022. Yeah,
fantastic.
exciting.
So, a lot of things to look forward to there.
Definitely.
Audrey, how can we, the general public, support the arts scene? I mean, whether it's through exhibitions or even social media, or even what's really trending now, NFTs.
Okay. On okay, how can we, as the general public, support? Let's start with art. What is art? Art is soulful, and art makes all things around us soulful, of course. And we can support artists through social media engagement for a start. So as simple as being supportive in sharing, liking, and also introducing new artists to your friends and family members on online platform. And also, we are not talking about just a visual, of course. We are talking about various genre here, from visual art, performing arts, film, literature, and music. Like, share, comment, follow, and your artists to support. And if you are able to buy or commission them to improve the look of the place of where you work, or your business, or even your own home. So so that's how that's what you can do, as the general public to support.
Wonderful, Audrey. Wishing you and the
Yeah.
team all the very best, including all the artists who are back to work right now. So definitely exciting times, as you said, and we will speak to you very soon. In the meantime, have a wonderful, event and a series of events that's happening as well. That was Audrey joining us, of course, from a GMBB mall, which of course focuses on a space for art and community of artists. Now, moving on, here's the news in brief. Water supply in 998 areas that have been expected to experience water cuts have been restored by 28% as of earlier today. The three areas, namely Gombak, Kuala Lumpur, and Kuala Langat, however, are still at zero recovery rate. Now, further information can be obtained through official communication channels. Check out the Selangor app, or Facebook, or Instagram, or even their Twitter account for more updates as well. Now, the Minister in the Prime Minister's Department of Economy, Datuk Seri Mustafa Muhammad, has said there's a need for the MRT3, or the Mass Rapid Transit Line project, to be completed, but the model needs to be looked at again. However, there have been quite a few proposals for the project to be done on a moderate basis due to the government's current financial position. And a total of 91.2% of the adult population here in Malaysia have completed their COVID-19 vaccination as of yesterday. Based on the Health Ministry's data of the COVID Now portal, 95% of the adult population have received at least one dose of the vaccine. And the government has contributed 5 million ringgit to Palestine for the reconstruction of the Al Rimal Clinic in Gaza. The clinic, which houses the only COVID-19 testing lab in Palestine, was destroyed by the Israeli attacks in May this year. And according to Datuk Seri Sulaiman Muhammad Ali, Malacca is expected to enter phase 4 of the National Recovery Plan by next week. He's added that Malacca should move into phase 4 along with Pahang, but unfortunately, the COVID-19 infection rate was still high at that point. And here's a snapshot of what's happening internationally. Germany's top economic institutes have cut their joint forecast for 2021 growth to 2.4% as supply bottlenecks continue to hamper manufacturing. Global manufacturing has been slammed by shortages of components, clogged ports, and a lack of cargo containers. The situation is further hampered by several pandemic-induced shutdowns last year. And the IMF its steering committee is urging global policymakers to closely monitor inflation dynamics and be ready to take decisive actions to maintain price stability. It's also highlighted increased concerns that inflation spikes may be more durable, caused by increased consumer demand, pandemic-induced disruptions to supply chains, and a sharp rise in energy and commodity prices. And here's some good news for travelers, of course. According to the governor of Bali, international flights could resume by the end of October as the holiday island reopened to foreign tourists, but without flights after 18 months of hiatus. Bali drew 6.2 million foreign visitors back in 2019. But of course, the pandemic has devastated the tourism sector, which is worth 54% of its economy. So from January till June this year, only 35 foreign tourists had entered Bali through its airport. crazy difference in those numbers there as well. But I'm sure we'll see a rise or a spike in that once more borders are open. A panel of expert advisors to the US FDA have voted to recommend booster shots of the Moderna vaccine for Americans above 65 years old and those at high risk of severe illness. They say if the FDA signs off on this booster shot, the CDC will make specific recommendations on who should get these shots. And moving on to entertainment news, Netflix has launched a new Palestinian film collection just yesterday, in fact, the first of its kind by a major streaming service. Now, this collection, titled Palestinian Stories, consists of 32 award winning films, which are either directed by their filmmakers or perhaps tell stories based on their culture. Many of them depict as well the Palestinian life in the Israeli occupied West Bank and Gaza. And here's what's trending on Twitter. Hashtag Thomas Cup 2020 is still trending after Malaysian badminton men's team lost 4-1 to their Japan in the final group game. Malaysia still qualified to the quarterfinals though and will face Indonesia today. And the latest social media campaign by the Sabah Tourism Board is gaining momentum on Twitter as well as Sabahans unite over all things Sabah with hashtag Sabah Chats. And finally, in pop culture, the internet is raving over the release of Adele's new single, Easy on Me, and her new music video. Adele is back. Well, that's all for today's edition of The Brief. Have a great weekend. Keep staying positive and testing negative. I'm Jessy Chahal. Thanks for watching.